welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Mirrorball. I'm your host, Melina, and I run Mixing It Up with Melina on both Facebook and Instagram. I am so excited for season 3. I'm also loving the feedback that you guys are giving me. You're loving the coziness. You're loving the authentic feel that I'm trying to give you guys. You love the details I'm giving you guys. I cannot wait to see how we grow together. So with that being said, get cozy. I know some of you have messaged me saying you listen to it in the car. Just drive safe. I've already poured my drink of choice. You already know. And so grab yours, get cozy, water, coffee, cocktail, wherever kind of feel we're going for. And let's dive in because we look. All right, so season 3, what do we have? We start in fall 2006, which is just shy of 20 years ago. We have to keep that in mind when we're talking about the older seasons because things have changed. Social media was not prevalent and hardly around at that time. MySpace was a thing and Facebook was a thing, but this Facebook was only allowed if you were in college and you had a college email. So that transition to opening it up to the general public had not happened yet. So things to keep in mind when we're talking about the older seasons. We have the same 3 judges, Carrie Ann, Bruno, and Len. We have the same 2 hosts from last season, excuse me, Tom and Samantha. And this season, we go from 10 couples last year to 11 this year. We have an array of celebrities going into this year, kind of all over the place, still following line with having that particular celebrity only have one in their genre. Although they did add a couple singers, but they were completely different realms. You have a pop singer and a country singer. You have actors, but some are daytime, some are primetime. So let's dive in and meet the couples of season 3. First up, we have Tucker Carlson, who's a famous news correspondent, and he he hosts his own TV show on Fox. Is it still Fox or did he go somewhere else? Pretty sure it's Fox. He is partnered with newcomer to the ballroom, Elena Granecko. I may have said that wrong. No surprise here. If you are new here, I botch names, and that's someone coming from a name like Melina. And don't even get me started on what my maiden name was. Anywho, I actually got to interview Elena over the phone last year when I initially wanted to kind of start this thought process. And I never shared our phone conversation. I still have those notes, but I am going to see if she might want to do a Zoom this time. So stand by for that. We also have Shanna Moakler, famous Miss USA 1995, but many of you probably know her as Travis Barker's ex-wife and mother to 2 of his children. She was partnered also with newcomer Jesse DeSota. We have Harry Hamlin, partnered with the lovely Ashley. We have Vivica A. Fox, a famous actress, partnered with Nick. We have Willa Ford, pop singer, partnered with Maxim. We have Sarah Evans, country artist, partnered with Tony Dovolani. We have Jerry Springer, the ultimate famous TV host, partnered with newcomer to the ballroom, and we all know and love her, Kim Johnson, which I will not say their now married names until that transition happens. I'm trying to stay in the realm of like the year we're in. We have Monique Coleman, an actress famously known for her character on High School Musical. And she's partnered with Louis Van Amstel. We have Joey Lawrence, popular actor, famously known for Blossom or Brotherly Love, but still famous today, partnered with Edita. We have Mario Lopez, aka AC Slater from Saved by the Bell. He's partnered with newcomer and also big fan love, Karina Smirnoff. And then we have Emmitt Smith, NFL legend, partnered with Cheryl Burke. We have a star-studded cast this year, and the show itself is blowing up. They broke rating records again, season 2, and then even for premiering season 3, they started off with a bang. However, this is the first year that we had a lot of what I would refer to as, or many of you would refer to as, tea, juice, controversy, things like that. We have our first withdrawal. We have our first shocking elimination, at least my personal opinion, shocking elimination. We have our first love story of Dancing with the Stars that's on the ballroom, like between a partner, a celebrity, and his dance partner pro. Also, at the end of this, I did have Shanna Moakler reach out and give me her answers to the Mirrorball Minute questionnaire questions. I'm very excited to share what she had to say. She was only on the show for 2 weeks, unfortunately, but her answers were extremely well said and insightful, which is always my goal with them. So stay tuned to the end. So let's start off with the finale. We have Mario Lopez and Karina Smirnoff who go to the finale, as well as Emmitt Smith and Cheryl Burke. Cheryl had won the year previous with Jerry Rice, also a football player. So there's some correlation going on there. But the two of them, I mean, I remember it being like neck and neck. I personally was rooting for Maria. Talking is hard today. I personally was rooting for Mario and Karina. I loved what they brought to the table. I think Karina is one of the most creative choreographers that's ever been on this show, especially like the first half of it. I was one of those that loved the chemistry between the two. They swore up and down that they were not an actual item, that it was just on-screen chemistry. But stay tuned because we're going to dive into that just a little bit. And then you had Emmitt Smith and Cheryl Burke. Emmitt was a joy to watch on the TV. Also, I know if you watched last week's episode, I talked about how Jerry Rice was so surprising, being this big NFL legend, and then seeing the softer side of him, or the dancer side of him, was really a monumental, I think is the word I used, moment for me in Dancing with the Stars. It made me really see athletes had so much more to them. Same thing with Emmitt Smith, but I swear he smiled the whole dang season, which I know he would probably say different, but it was a joy to watch them. But I was rooting for Mario. Why can I not say this man's name? Mario and Karina. At the end of the day, Emmitt and Cheryl won. Cheryl ended up being the first and one of two who did a back-to-back Mirrorball winning. Side note, kind of spoiler alert, Cheryl never wins again after this season, which is extremely surprising because she was on for so many and she had some really great partners and some really great opportunity. There were times that she comes in. One of the biggest things of season 3 that comes to mind is the withdrawal of Sarah Evans from the competition. I forgot to write down what week it was, but I do believe it was week 6. Yeah, I didn't write it down. They were halfway through the competition. And it came to her that her husband of 13-ish, it was 13, 14 years, they were married. They have 3 girls together. It came to her light that he was cheating on her. And it was a pretty big deal. There are a lot of allegations, honestly, on both ends. He alleged a lot of things with her, and she alleged a lot of things with him. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but it was disturbing at times, concerning at times. But when it came to light for her, she withdrew from the competition. So she knew going into it she was taking herself out of the situation. So they did a pre-recorded statement on it, and she let the world know at that time. So going into that week, we were told Sarah would not be there, and why, and that the show did ask, which I'm kind of going to go all over the place for a second. Willa Ford had been eliminated the week prior. We're going to touch on that in a second. And they did reach out to her to see if she would want to come back and dance that week in Sarah's place so that the numbers kind of stayed the same. She did decline that, and we'll go over that, like I said, in a little bit. So instead, that particular week, Sarah's withdrawal counted as the elimination, and no one actually went home outside of her, and that was her choice. Last year when I touched on season 3, there were several people who messaged me saying, like, what did that mean because of her contract? Like, did she have to pay a fee? Many people surprisingly said that they would have just persevered through it. They would have drowned themselves in work. And I'm going to touch on something, and a lot of it is going to be my personal opinions and just a couple thoughts that go into my head. One, to answer the question, did she have to pay a fee or do anything for breaking her contract? Because they are very tight-lipped with, not tight-lipped, that's not the right word. They are very strict with their contract and the expectations of it being met. However, they allowed her to not have to pay a fee of any kind if she promised to do the pre-recorded interview explaining her reasoning for leaving. They felt that that was a good exchange of how to end things. So that is why she did the pre-recorded interview. She is with Tony in that interview. They explain what's going on. And then after that, they were done. They didn't force her to pay any kind of fee or do any kind of legal action whatsoever. With that being said, those of you who said you would have drowned yourself in work, I think it's very important to remember that everyone handles things differently, especially when essentially this is grief. You know, you're 13, 14 years of being married, who I don't even know how long they dated beforehand, the father of your 3 children, you find out that he has this essentially secret life, and that's just my choice of words. I don't think she ever said that. But your whole world crumbles. Everyone is going to handle that differently. Some of us may lock ourselves in our room, hire a nanny to take care of the kids, and never come out for weeks. And others will drown themselves in work. Some will persevere in their own form, and others will put a strong face on, and you would never know that they're going through something so sad in their life. Everyone handles things differently, and I think that she did to the best that she could. Her reasoning for leaving was that she needed to be there for her kids as they went through this transition together. I can't imagine any of that situation, nor do I hope I ever have to. I don't think I will, but so that is just a perspective that I think we need to remember, that everyone does things differently, and this particular situation just didn't have necessarily a right way to do it. This was just her way, and it worked out for her, and I think we need to give grace in these kind of situations, and to remember it. Now let's circle back to what I feel is Dancing with the Stars' first shocking elimination. We had the first 2 seasons, and yeah, it was sad to see certain people go, but this to me was the first one in the history of Dancing with the Stars that we experienced the like the real shock value in the middle of the season. Willa Ford, partnered with Maxim at the time, they had insane chemistry. They danced well together. They looked like they had fun together. He has said in an interview that he felt he crossed the line with maybe being too tough on her because he thought her expectations or his expectations could be higher and she could meet them. But otherwise, I didn't find any like bad blood with the 2 of them. But in week 4, she got the first 10, which if you've been around, you know that 10s used to not be very common, especially the first half of the season. And for her to get a 10 in week 4 was insane. She was beautiful. However, the very next week, with 3 9s that she scored for that week, week 5, she went home. And that is a perfect example of she could be a phenomenal dancer, but her fan base might not be as strong. Or she has a strong fan base, but they all think that the others are voting. There can be so many moving pieces when it comes to this whole voting system that it just may or may not work out for that particular contestant. And for Willa's situation, it did not work out. They did ask her, though, if she would come back, like I touched on earlier in the show. But she said that she didn't want to because she didn't feel like it was fair. Her time had already come. She was voted off and she didn't want to ruffle any feathers. That's not her words, those are mine. But yeah, so that was for me. And if there's a shocking elimination that happened in seasons 1 or 2 for you, put in the comments and let me know. But for me, I do believe Willow was the first one in Dancing with the Stars history to just be like jaw-dropping, like what just happened moment. In season 3, we also have our very first love story. A celebrity and his dancing partner, Pro, have their love together. Now, in enter Mario and Karina. They, like I said, all season were beating the rumors away that they were an item, and they insisted that they were not. And but it was hard to disprove that. However, as soon as the season wrapped, the two of them did come forward and say that they were an item. They didn't start dating until after the show. I'm sure they were trying to approach it in a professional manner because back then it really did not have a good look for it. But yes, so they go on to date almost 2 years. It was a long-term relationship, a serious relationship. They never got engaged, although for some reason many people think that they do. And I think it's just because Karina does get engaged down the road, and we'll talk about that. But in this moment for Mario and Karina, they never got engaged. It was a long-term relationship of going just over 2 years or about 2 years. However, she broke up with him due to trust issues. He had just moved to New York City to be on Broadway, and something happened. They broke up, and shortly after that, he started dating his now wife. And hey, listen, if you know, you know, break it off and then move on. Because at the end of the day, he's still with his wife now. They have 3 beautiful children together, and they seem extremely happy. But the rumor mill, I mean, they did a fire with this one. So somewhere in that time frame, he was dating Karina, dating his now wife, and they may or may not have overlapped. I don't think that they necessarily were physical, but I think a connection may have started. That is just my personal opinion, my personal thoughts. This is allegedly. I just think he realized he had a better connection with this one. Okay, I've brought my notes back out because Shanna responded to the Mirrorball Minute questions, and she had some really good answers, but they were long, and I don't want to mess this up because I really... First off, I'm just appreciative that any celebrity or pro is taking time out of their day to respond to me, to communicate with me, whether it's through the direct messaging, whether it's through email, whether it's through voice messaging or a Zoom interview. I am just extremely grateful that these celebrities are allowing me to take a moment of history in their lives and share it with you guys. So now that that's out of the reminder, Shanna Moakler is former Miss USA 1995 and top 6 finalist for Miss Universe 1995. She was on the season 3. She went home on week 2. She only got to do 2 dances. She was partnered with Jesse DeSota, who was only on the show also 1 season. These are the questions that I asked. As a reminder, Mirrorball Minute questions is the same 5 questions I asked contestants and then the same 5 questions I asked pros. I just want to see across the board what everyone's experiences was, so that's why it's the same 5. And then if I get a chance to ask more questions or talk with them on a deeper level, then I'll obviously share that too. But I don't want to take more of their time than they're willing to give also. So that's where we're at. All right, question number 1, if you had one word to pick to describe your time on the show. I don't know that either she didn't have one or she skipped it, but there was no answer to that. She dove right into what was her favorite memory on the show. And I'm going to read you her answers word for word. The camaraderie, being pushed for outside of my comfort zone, building trust with my partner, and realizing I could do something completely new under intense pressure. The experience was challenging, humbling, and ultimately empowering. Now, essentially she's kind of answering like choose one word. I would say challenging, humbling, or ultimately empowering. And it's funny because last year I reached out to season 4 Shandy Thanassi, I think you said, also a former pageant queen. And her favorite memory also was the Kamadri. I love that this show has built that for these contestants. And I know not everyone may have the same experience, but across the board, the show has done a really good job at making people feel comfortable and pushing each other and cheerleading for each other, even though it's a competition show. Okay, so I asked what her favorite dance from the show was, and this is her words. The waltz, one of 2 dances I got to perform, and it meant a lot to me. It was about grace, connection, and storytelling, less about tricks and more about feeling, which made it really special. I hate to say this, Shanna, I'm so sorry, but she danced a foxtrot and a mambo. So I think what she's referring to in the waltz is her foxtrot from week 1, Saving All My Love for You. I went back to double check, actually triple checked, and then I went and watched her foxtrot. And honestly, her foxtrot has a lot of waltz feeling to it. It was beautiful. It was graceful. I remember it being, and I didn't know what to expect from her, but it was so much better than I thought she would have done. It was very graceful is a wonderful word to describe that dance. Let me roll a clip for you guys real quick. So I'm saving all my love. Yes, I'm saving all my love. You see what I'm saying? I think maybe because it was just shy of 20 years ago, it did give a waltz-like feel to it. Maybe they referred to it as the waltz, but it was tracked in history as a foxtrot. And honestly, I think maybe foxtrots tend to be a little bit more boppy these days. So maybe there's, just tomato. All right. Was your time on the season easier or harder than you thought it would be? Her response, again, her words, much harder. The physical demands, the constant rehearsals, and the emotional pressure of performing live every week were far more intense than I had expected, but that's also what made it such a growth experience. I've yet to meet or chat, which I know I have so many more seasons to go, to anyone who didn't use growth at some point in their answers. And I also think that's extremely insightful and says a lot yet again for the show, what they're bringing to the table outside of just a reality TV competition show. I really found that to be super special, especially because she was only on 2 weeks. She did 2 live shows. There's the 4 weeks leading up to it where you're practicing, and then the 2 weeks of the constant rehearsals. But in that 2 weeks, it left such an impactful moment in her life. I just, that has to be something that the show should be very happy for and give them praise for. All right, if we did a new all-star season where we brought back former pros, would you consider going back? She said, her words, definitely would consider it. With the right timing, it would be meaningful to come back with more experience, confidence, and deeper appreciation for the process. I think especially for anyone who was like season 20 and before, because it's been years now, essentially you grow up as a person, and oftentimes growing up as a person comes with a lot of change. You change as a person. You do get more confident the older you get, I think. So to go back and redo a show that had such a big part of your growth, to do it again with a new set of eyes and that confidence, I feel like it would be a very big game changer for so many of them. And I really think she had so much potential. I just think her fan base was not huge. And at the time, she was married to Travis Barker and she was a mom. With that being said, where you can find Shanna now, she has a podcast with a fellow beauty queen, Claudia Jordan. It's called Wicked Awesome Podcast, and you can find that on your listening platforms. She also is still involved in the beauty queen world, and you can follow her on her social media. Shanna, thank you so much for giving us these answers. It was very, very special to see the message from you. And that wraps up season 3. I can't believe we're 3 seasons in, which I better buckle up because I've got 30. There's 34 altogether. But with that said, I am super excited. I cannot say it enough. I know I started the video with it, but I'm going to end it with it too. I am so grateful for you guys. Continue giving me the feedback. My message box is always open on Facebook or Instagram. Feel free to, well, here, let me just do the whole blurb. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video. These minute things in your life make a huge impact in mine. So if we want to keep the show going and we want to have it grow, the more likes, subscriptions over on social media, on Facebook or Instagram, likes, comments, shares, saves, tell your friends to come and check it out. The more, the merrier. But yeah, I am very, very grateful, and I can't wait to see how we keep growing together.